Hello and welcome to La Scena Tête. I'm your host, Don Adriano. Today we have a really special guest with us, baritone John Brancy. He already at a very young age has many awards under his belt, including the winner of the International Competition of Montreal, the Concours International de Montréal, the first prize in the song category. He has second prize in the world-renowned Wigmore Hall International Song Competition. He's also won even a Grammy. And just yesterday, he made his opera debut with the Opera of Montreal in the world premiere of La Beauté du Monde, which is the latest work by composer Julien Bilodeau and librettist Michel Marc Bourchard. Without further ado, here is John Brancy.
Hello.
Welcome, man.
I'm here in person.
Finally.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel great. Yeah.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Yesterday, great show.
Thank you, man.
Great music. Great everything, really.
Yeah. Yeah. A true opera, right?
A true opera. Yes.
All together, a dramatic opera.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun with this piece. I mean, fun in a certain sense, but we've had the score with us now over a year, and this is the third rescheduling of the piece because it was one of those pandemic holdovers, and it's really great to finally have it on its feet. We'll talk a little bit about the piece.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Please, what is it about?
Yeah, so La Beauté du Monde is really about, it's a true story. It's a true story about Jacques Chaujar and all of these different characters, Rose Valland and even the Nazis at the time, my character, Franz Wolf Metternich, real people that have a very important story to be told. Basically, the Nazis wanted to destroy culture, and cleanse culture during the time, and their idea was to burn and destroy all of the, quote, degenerate art, which is the modern art of the time. And so Jacques hid most of the paintings, even the classics, all around France, and my character kind of arrives on the scene a little bit late to it, and you think that he's going to, because he's a Nazi sympathizer, you think he's going to actually be very violent with him, but actually he wants to help the French and help Jacques with his effort to hide the pieces from the Nazis. So he's really kind of like a double agent. Yes. And it's a fun role to play in that way because it's a bit of a hero, in his own way, because everybody has, put their life on the line, and I'm Franz Wolf Metternich definitely did that. In history, he was given one of the highest medals of honor from France by Charles de Gaulle after the war for his efforts. So I just think nowadays, in terms of what we're creating for the operatic stage, it's an amazing effort to take true history, true historical stories, and turn them into opera. The way of you creating fantasy in operas is always an interesting avenue, but I think there is something to be said about the heroic deeds of real people at a certain time in history when we had so little in comparison to what we have now. So these people were really this was everything to them. This was their entire life. They were putting their lives on the line for this work.
Talking about that, the opera, I thought, and your character too is there a little bit to bring some. I feel like your whole rhetoric brings a lot of questions into the landscape of about art and about the value of art. And I feel like, I would like to explore this theme about, which is maybe the main theme of the opera, which is what is the value of art?
Well, this is an interesting thing, and I think in our current scenario, there's two things that I think I've seen, and I think a lot of people are aware of right now. But we could talk a little bit about them because I think that they're interesting and they pertain to what we do as opera singers in some way, but not entirely. So the first thing is, climate activists are gluing themselves to Van Gogh. That's a very interesting way of sending a message of civil disobedience. Now, why they do that, I think it has something to do with the fact that the museums that these pieces are in part funded by fossil fuel industries. So we have to look, as artists, we have to look at, because we only get funding to a certain degree from government. You know, in the United States, actually, I love going on record and saying this, actually, because it's such a ridiculous figure. We only receive around, on average, $150 to $180 million for the entire nation.
For the entire nation.
Yeah, for the NEA. There's a lot of private foundations. There's a lot of private money that goes into the arts in the United States. And that's good and bad, because it really associates what you're doing to, you know, the group or the family that you're taking money from. So for instance, a big topic of conversation now is the Sackler family, who are the people that are responsible for Purdue Pharma and actually the opioid crisis in a big way in the United States. So a lot of the museums, including the Louvre, currently are being forced in some way to remove the name Sackler from all of the galleries that they funded privately. So the question is like, what is at the federal level, specifically, you know, in America, what is our desire to create art for the people?
Yeah.
You know, not for special interests or corporate or private reasons, right? And I think that's actually a matter of life and death in a lot of ways, because if you're only creating art for a very specific group of people that have the means to pay for it, then you don't give it to everybody, you know? And that's actually who it's for. It's for humanity. It's for all of us to take part in. So I think that it's a very, very relevant topic to the current scenario today. And then there's also, you know, the other end of the spectrum, where that's a little bit harder for me to discuss, because I don't really know too much about it, but where the political landscape will go, you know, and in terms of censorship. I think that's also something that, you know, it's kind of, it's moving in ebbs and flows, but what role does art play in that, you know, in ensuring that certain things are allowed to be said and should be said, and then certain things need to be reined in. You know, it's a very, very interesting time that we're in, and it mirrors where our culture was at a very similar period. And I think you know about this, but I spent a lot of time focusing and studying the First World War. Which is, you know, in some ways, both of the world wars are a mirroring of our current era, which is a shift in technology. It's really what it is. It's a shift in technology that coincides with the shift in culture. There was an amazing thing that happened in the pandemic in the United States. The Small Business Administration stepped up, and it was only because we, as the people, came and when they were handing out all of those, you know, funds, we were saying, hey, you know, if you don't bail out the arts community and the entertainment community, not just the airline industry or this major industry, and if you look at us as an industry, you will see that we are, you know, collectively as big, if not bigger, in the United States. So we need your help, and they did that. So the Small Business Administration actually put into place a first of its kind, as far as I know, funding opportunity for producers, for venues, for agencies, et cetera, et cetera. There was actually a list of things that it was going to be for. And these were, quote, grants. And they actually released $16 billion into the arts community.
That shows you that it is possible.
It's not just possible, it happened. It actually happened. And I personally took part in it, as well as helping other artists take part in part in that opportunity. Of course, you had to use the funds in the way that was going to be helpful for you, but also for your community. And I think that that was a big aspect of it that made it, you know, something that we should look to do moving forward. I think that having an arm of the Small Business Administration in America that would see the arts and artists, which are self-employed individuals and self-employed entities for by and large, giving them, you know, annual or every 2 years, a level of funding close to that. Maybe not $16 billion, but hey, I mean, like something close to that would infuse communities all throughout the nation to actually start creating work in a civil way for the purpose of, I think, that we're discussing right now. Yeah.
So during the opera, your remember your character is Van.
So Franz Wolf Metternich.
Franz Wolf Metternich.
Wolf.
Wolf.
Like kind of like the composer or the.
Yeah. So it says at one point something along. I'm paraphrasing along the lines. The Romans stole from the Greek. Also, you know, we know of colonialism and how it's been prevalent, like during the whole human history, and how people have invaded each other. And he said something along the lines of that, meaning a little bit like, who is the owner of art?
He says it specifically, so he goes through kind of a list in history. It's the aria. That's actually the aria.
That's
the aria.
Actually an aria.
Okay. Yeah. So the whole lead up to that, they call it the aria. That's what Julien was calling it.
Okay.
So I basically go on this rant that takes us through history to show all of the different cultures that came around to pillage the others.
Yes.
And share and take the art. And in the process of doing so, more art is then created.
Exactly.
You know, about the experience of being pillaged and colonized and the art stolen. So who owns the art? That is really the question that I'm asking. But then my character shifts, and that's when he starts talking about the fact that fascism and the sort of the barbarism of the Nazis.
Yeah, of actually destroying it.
It's the next level of it.
Yeah,
it's not just to take it.
Yes.
And to put it in a museum, it's to take it and to burn it.
Yes.
And to defile it and remove it from culture. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I think the world was responding to, that was a level of fear, you know, that humanity had never really faced before.
Yeah.
You know, fear of change, fear of, developing and multiplying our race, you know, who we are as people into different races. All of that in the early 20th century. That was just so against the rules that were in place for hundreds and hundreds of years. So, you know, that the question stands today, I think, along the lines of how far back will we go as humans to really give the credit to the places and the peoples. You know, because so much of the museums today hold artifacts and pieces of artwork of Native people that, I mean, I don't personally, this is not my opinion, I have to say that, but I don't know where that stands for those cultures.
No, exactly. Because that's what I like about the work.
Yeah.
Because I found there's a philosophical component about it that leaves you after with ideas that are relevant even today.
Yeah, of course.
So today, doing the research, I found 90% of African works
are in,
and their heritage really are in Europe right now.
Yes.
And they are still discussing, like in many, France included.
Mm-hmm.
Would you give us back? And then it's like a discussion. It's like, and they have some points, some arguments against giving those people back their whatever there is a statue. There's many things there are, and one being some of them decide like no, we prefer some sort of support to develop the artistic community here in terms of money. But I mean, I'm guessing like what is I'm thinking like what is a solution for this, because at the end I see it as a Latin American. I see it also like, yeah, it's still, you still kind of the art is for the rich really, when you think for first world type of people, because if you think about it, the people in Europe, okay, that's great, but to go there, you have to take if you're from somewhere else, you have to take a plane that you cannot pay, and you have to take a passport that probably you won't have the passport for that if you're poor. Well, even Venezuela, forget it, you're not getting out.
Yeah.
So like how could we make sure that if it's for humanity, then how are we going to make sure that at least 90% of the humans are accessing it in some way? That's
Well, let me go in on this topic, because it's actually an amazing thing to talk about, and I'm happy to discuss it. But I actually want to come at it from the aspect of opera, because
awesome, yeah.
because opera, unlike physical pieces of art and physical works that have to be moved, opera is people. Opera is people.
Yes.
It is. You can't separate the experience of opera without having a person do it.
Yeah.
So if we take a piece like La Beauté du Monde and move it around the world, that itself has the opportunity to raise an awareness, within the people of that region, or the people. If for instance we go to the Louvre and we do this piece.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the it'll register, a light bulb will click, and they'll be like, oh, well, maybe we do need to get back some of this work.
But I don't know, is it even giving it back going to do anything? Because I mean, I see the point where people, okay, where do we put it? In the grass? Like honestly, in some countries, it's just not possible.
No, for sure. I think I read
it.
something. It may be the country is like Nigeria,
Nigeria.
where they're building a museum.
They are
to take back the works. And for instance, like England is refusing to give a major majority of the works, which is. That's crazy. That's crazy when a country is actually going to the degree to build a museum for the pieces, and then the country that has taken those pieces denies them access to that. So I think that in instances like that, you can use that as an example, right?
Yeah.
Now I don't necessarily think that this piece will go to Nigeria, this opera, but it very well could go to London or to England in some aspect.
Yeah.
And it probably should. To kind of send that message to the public. Ultimately, I think that's actually who makes the decision. It's not the government. It's not the people who own the works or the people that run the museum. It's actually the people themselves, the public, that will make that decision. And I think it is actually a good thing that it's going to be coming forward, and hopefully it does have a role to play, as well as all that other stuff we were just talking about in terms of the money that goes into arts and into the sort of holding of these pieces. I think by and large, making it more for the people and opening up these pieces to be moved around the world, I think is probably should be an effort that is being done.
So talking about singing also.
Yeah, let's talk about singing.
I mean, you're a singer. You're not, maybe
I'm not a historian.
Maybe a future politician. Who knows?
Maybe.
I don't know. But what went into in comparison to, let's say, you sang I don't know if you, well, yeah, Così fan tutti.
Yeah.
Guglielmo, you sang a role like that. Compared to a new creation, what's the preparation level there in terms of learning the score and also in terms of vocally preparing that, and also the rehearsals, like how they're different, how they're similar?
Well, Mozart is, by and large, once the tempo starts, it doesn't change. And once the meter starts, it doesn't change. It's pretty direct, you know, as long as the conductor is beating the tempo that it is, that's it. So for modern work, it will change. You will have a different meter, and then it will shift again, and it will shift again. So counting is a different aspect that really plays a major role in modern work, I think, for by and large, for my own experience. I've done a lot of modern opera now. And I think vocally speaking, you know, with Mozart, for me, it's playful. You know, it's not easy, especially to sing in a hall the size of San Francisco Opera, which is almost 4,000 seats. Oh. But that acoustic in there is fantastic. You know, it really is one of the best, even though it's massive. So you still have to obviously work and sing and sing out. But it's different, you know, in this space and with this piece, and specifically doing it in modern French, contemporary French.
Yeah.
We were encouraged to give the sound.
Oh, okay.
So I've been working on that literally for the past month that I've been here. Yeah. I've never sung.
I can't do it still.
Yeah, because I have to say with the R at the end. Voilà. You can't just say Jojar or Jojar. That's not his name. So, and then listening, you know, to artists in the 30s and the 40s that were singing pop tunes. I mean, it was kind of egregious. The amount of that was going on. It was like, yeah, exactly. It's just like so you're like, okay, well, that's something that I have to do because it literally takes place in that time period, and it's hyper-realism is what we're dealing with in terms of the art. So that was a challenge. And I didn't get that challenge until I got here. I wasn't practicing.
Really?
I wasn't building that into the role initially. So that was something that I was like, oh, by the way, we're doing it with this R. And I was like, oh, that R. I was like, oh, I've never used that R before. Let me see how that feels. So it's been a process to just like, and now what I'm finding is like when because I have to switch between French and German very quickly. And I'm even doing it while I'm saying my name. Yeah. So I was saying instead of Franz Wolf Metternich, I was doing Franz Wolf Metternich, like using this R as and then also saying it with all the rest of the German. I'm like, that's not right. So I just ended up rolling the R's on the German like crazy. So I feel like a total nerd right now, you know, just a singing nerd, but that's good. I think it's good.
Well, you have to do a performance like this.
Yeah, everybody's watching understands. They understand.
Exactly.
It's a big part of the audience.
Yeah.
Nerds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. I think I had some feedback from French-speaking people, and they were just like, your French is clear as a bell. Like it's
that's great.
Yeah.
I thought it was, but I mean, it's my third language, so my opinion doesn't count as much as a Quebecer born.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very clear.
Yeah.
And also your voice, it has. Maybe I see you doing a lot of French opera in the future because where your voice sits, it's almost tenorial. Almost. It's not a tenor, but it's almost tenorial.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
I started working with a tenor.
Who?
He's a friend of mine.
Okay,
yeah,
a friend of mine.
I'm going to give a shout out. He's blown up right now, and he should be. He's one of the best, if not the best tenor alive.
Can I try to guess?
Yeah, you can.
Tettleman?
Tettleman is great. I have huge respect for that voice, and for him, he's one of.
A baritone, maybe?
Oh no, he's a tenor. He's just kind of like getting on the scene. He jumped in for Jose and Carmen in Santa Fe, and now he just did Traviata and HGO. His name is Matthew White.
Matthew White, yeah, he's singing here.
Yeah, he's coming here to do Butterfly.
Oh my God, what a voice!
Yeah.
What a voice! I was so happy to see that he was doing Butterfly
Doing
next year.
Pinkerton.
So, so you started taking.
We started working together.
Start working together.
Yeah,
Okay.
I studied with one of his teachers.
Okay.
Before the pandemic.
Okay.
I did like 3 back-to-back sessions to
Yeah.
kind of get the idea, and then he started telling me things about chord closure.
Yeah.
And how to lower the larynx in a way that is not depressing the tongue and all of those technical things. And I started to learn an aspect of my own vocalism after the competition.
Yes.
Which is more operatic.
Yes.
I brought in more of an operatic technique.
Mm-hmm. I mean for this performance?
No, for everything.
Or for everything.
Yeah, that's
okay.
over the pandemic, I was teaching, but I was also studying, and I was looking at different tessitura in terms of roles. And practicing things that were very, very difficult, and I wouldn't necessarily put on stage, but at this point were, things that I was interested in seeing if I could do, and I could, and then just increasing my my comfortability above an A natural, and seeing what that felt like in navigating B flat, B, and C.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
As a baritone.
That's great, man.
Yeah, but being able to do that is old school. That's an old school thing to approach as a baritone.
Why do you say that?
Well, I think that a lot of, I'm definitely a Zwischen. I definitely have the ability to sing between the Fachs. Whether or not I will be cast as that, or if I personally go down that path, character-wise and development-wise, it's kind of where my voice wants to go. I think the role of Peleas would be something that I would love to finally do at some point, because a lot of no hate here, but a lot of tenors are singing it when it is very clearly written for the high baritone.
Yeah, the French call it baritone Martin.
Yeah.
Which I don't like the term because it just sounds like a soft. I don't know.
Right.
Like baritone.
Well, there's
but it's
there's
like,
another term. It's called cavalier baritone. Have you heard this one?
Yes.
That's like escamillo.
Yes.
Where I think if you had a Peleas that had a more, because I wouldn't necessarily sing it incredibly precious. It would definitely have more drama.
Yeah, and more just because the voice is also a little bit lower than a tenor.
Yeah, exactly. The low is where I will live there. So the comparison to the sound world of what I would do with the Peleas to the Golo would be kind of similar. And then the highs would just be kind of just where they are. It's not about shifting. I'm now singing up here, and I'm going to change my technique for that.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of built in already.
Yeah.
So that's a role that I would love to do, and go into other roles that I would love to do.
Well, there are. But would you consider even doing a little bit like, well, the last person I had sitting there was Michael Spires.
I know.
Who is a baritone.
Yeah.
Would you consider even doing like him in the sense, not necessarily the Rossini type baritone stuff, which is really, for me, that's tenor, like it's high C, low A. Not necessarily that in terms of baritone in that sense of the word, but maybe doing, Peleas, we could say, although I think it's baritone, Peleas, for me.
I think,
but some of the roles, Mozart roles, like Tamino, I don't feel like that's too high for a baritone.
True.
And it could sound very heroic, which is kind of the idea for that role particularly. I don't know.
It's something that I've explored, that I've...
Have you sang Tamino a little bit?
I've learned the aria.
Okay.
I've sang Papageno.
Yes,
a few times. I think three times.
Yeah.
So, I think where it gets annoying for
Yeah.
me is in the ensembles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because then you're kind of made to sing in the tessitura
Yeah.
in a not heroic way. You know, so then you have to manage that aspect of it, and you don't want to do it like that, because then you get super tired.
Yes.
I think ones that are interesting for me down the line
Yeah.
could be something like Zygmunt. That's more in the direct line of the same tessitura as Peleas.
Yeah.
He doesn't sing above an A.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm also, Fidelio.
Fidelio,
Florestan is also it's a heavy one. But that's also within that tessitura-ish, it's a little bit higher. I would never be cast as it, and that makes sense, but Otello is also
Otello. But why not?
But
Why
also
not?
Canio.
Canio, yeah. That's just epic.
Yeah.
I guess you've sung that aria for fun.
I've played around with all of those, yeah.
But in those cases, some cases like that, you're almost better to take the tenor part than the baritone. Like in the case of Fidelio, I mean, I don't know what the baritone character is, but it's
Pizarro.
It's just like, God, like it's a monster voice.
Yeah, you need to be a dramatic baritone, which I don't really necessarily feel that I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to sing the more sort of dramatic repertoire, it just, above a certain part in my voice, it just becomes more dramatic if I'm singing there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just because of the nature of the voice.
But I will say this now, that I love doing Mozart. I love singing Mozart baritone roles, and I would love to do the Count and Don Giovanni.
So Count, Don definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's the world I want to live in to a certain point. And
so then so you did, sorry for interrupting, but you did Guglielmo.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't done Don Giovanni and Count yet?
No.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the Count.
I forget that you're like super young.
Yeah. I just turned 34. It's not super young, but
wow.
Yeah. I mean, in the world of baritones, I would like to definitely get a Count under my belt.
Yeah.
I think Don G in the right production and the right house. I think that absolutely is appropriate. I mean,
are there plans for actually? What's your schedule like next year? It's already, you can talk about it. Is there some of these roles already?
It's in the works. After the pandemic, I think we still talked about this, but post-pandemic, we're still kind of recovering.
Yeah.
And figuring out where certain artists belong, and where they're going to kind of make an impact. And I think for me, it's going to be more European based.
Okay.
And I have a very big project coming out. I'm going to be in Aix-en-Provence this summer.
Aix-en-Provence.
Yeah, and that will be a world premiere.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm very, very excited about. I don't know if I can really mention because they haven't announced the season and all that stuff. I mean, a lot of people know what it is. They know who it is, but immediately following that, I'll be at Royal Opera. So it's Aix-en-Provence.
So you told me about you can't talk yet about the Royal.
They just haven't announced the season, so I feel like
a creation too.
Yeah, and the role is in part is being written for my voice. So I'll be doing some things that are very classically baritone and then very much not.
Yeah.
That are things that in particular, my voice likes to do. Mm-hmm. So can't also discuss that yet. Mm-hmm. That in particular, I can't say. I've been asked.
Countertenor?
Possibly.
Oh.
Yeah.
So talking about, I noticed. So it's been like 7 years already that I kind of know your voice a little bit, like because of the Concours International de Montreal. Yeah. And now this opera, I noticed a difference in your voice. Like now that you're talking a little bit technical changes.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like it's more compact.
Mm.
Do you feel that?
Yeah.
And what do you think it is due What's the reason behind that? Is it the core closure that you're talking about, or some sort of you were talking about the tilt? I think also.
Yeah, it's both of those things. I think because I don't. For instance, when I sang the Verdi at the Concours, that was the first time I'd ever sung it.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was after 3 other arias.
yeah.
So I was really sweating. I'd never sung Posa before, and to do it with orchestra in that scenario was really intense.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go down this path of compact chord closure because I think it's where my voice will ultimately grow from.
Mm.
If I'm already aging my voice,
Yeah.
which is, a weird concept to just say, but I'm like, everything is
Big.
is big and wide.
Yeah.
I'm going to ultimately, that's it. That's my philosophy on it. It's like, I'm there, it's big and wide, that's all it's gonna be. I think now it allows me to sort of line up very much on the column and work from the vowels, from the true ah and the true e vowel.
Mm.
That's coming from a deeper place.
Yeah.
And is more in line with an old school method of production, which is chiaroscuro.
Yeah.
Right. So to have that compact sound for me, it still travels into the hall.
It traveled really well
Yeah.
yesterday, I can
Yeah.
tell you that.
It still travels into the hall.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot less work for me,
Okay.
ultimately, as well. It changes my color a little bit, but I'll save that aspect of my technique for when I'm in a recital hall.
Mm.
When I can really come off the voice.
Yeah.
But once I started singing, specifically at San Francisco,
Yeah.
I had to implement this. It was something where I was like, I can't yell this. I can't do that. And I once sang Figaro in La Notte di Figaro.
Yeah, that's kind of low.
It's really, really low.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I were to do it now, the only way I would be able to do it, even Guglielmo's pretty low.
Yes,
It actually is.
also,
It's kind of on
it
the
is
low end
also
for me.
low, yeah.
They allowed me to do rivolgerte, which is
Yes.
actually brings up the roll.
Yeah.
Because you end up, kind of belting out those F sharps. So for a bass, that would be really
That's intense,
not fun.
Yeah.
But for me, that's exactly where I want to be. So it actually sets me up for a little bit more comfort in that role. But I got that. If I were to ever do Figaro again, which I doubt I will, the Mozart Figaro,
Yeah, the Mozart.
I would really make it very much brighter.
Mm.
And because I have naturally a darker,
Yes.
tone to my voice.
Yeah.
It's the term that Matt used was, are you a velvet tipped steel glove or are you a steel tipped velvet glove? I'm a steel tipped velvet glove.
Mm.
I have the proclivity and the natural velvetness in my voice that I have to build the steel into the voice.
Yes.
And that's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
So the more time I spend doing this technique and focusing on building the steel into the voice, the easier it will be for me to live there.
Yeah.
And do opera and to go into the bigger roles in my 40s and 50s, right? So it's about longevity, it's about building steel into my voice, which is naturally more velvet in that way. I think that I think Matt's voice, the guy who played Goering, his...
Dallin.
Yeah.
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 I couldn't believe his voice, he's 29. It's
30.
30?
Yeah.
He sounded like a seasoned Wagnerian singer. I
Exactly.
just couldn't understand it.
That's a steel glove.
Yeah.
That you have to build the velvet tip on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Says he just has steel all day, And we ended up working together.
Really?
Yeah. I had a couple sessions with him.
Ah, great.
Just sharing the same knowledge,
Yeah.
Shifting things as need be or as as wanting to be shifted. Nothing's really forced, but I think he would be happy for me to talk about that because it was fun to share ideas. I think that lately that's where I'm getting most of my
other colleagues ask around. Yeah.
I mean, from the book, Great Singers on Great Singing.
Oh yeah,
that's
the
kind
Bible.
That's kind of the main theme.
Yes,
is like spending time with your colleagues, talking about technique was kind of the true old school method.
Yes, definitely.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
You know that, I mean, yes, voice teachers are very important. Yes, coaches are very important. These are people that, you know, having an ear that can guide you, especially in the early stages. But when you're on the road and you need to trust your colleagues, that's actually, I think it's an amazing place to be in, and I think it's an amazing place for our art form to be in, honestly.
I find awesome that you mentioned this because, you know, I feel like it can be a difficult thing for some in terms of, you know, it takes some humility to say like, hey, can you tell me how you do this, you know? But I think that's just at the end gonna make you a better artist. So it's for your own good. You know?
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think you know it will. For me personally, it's brought some humility to my own career. Like when I see, you know, somebody like Tailman or Matthew White, and I'm like, whoa, those guys have like serious techniques. I'm just like, I gotta learn from them. You know, I think it's cool. You know, it's something that we need. You need to have that humility in being a singer, and if you're just doing it entirely for yourself and you're the best voice and that's gonna break you down at some point. You know, you can do it, you can hold on, but at a certain point, if you don't recognize that your colleagues are also fantastic and better than you, it kind of sours the experience, in my own opinion. You know, and so that's why I have a huge respect for a lot of singers that are singing today, and I think we're in another golden age of singing, honestly.
Anyways, looking forward to listening to you again. Mostly, you know, this is extra tough in an interview with you, but thanks
man.
So much for sharing your thoughts about it.
I'll come back anytime.
Any invitation that you would like to tell people, or something in the future, or in the future days?
I'm going to sing some Messiahs in Milwaukee coming up. I'm doing a small recital tour that I set up for myself with Ronnie Michael Greenberg, who's actually from Montreal.
Okay.
He's on staff at San Francisco Opera. He's a fantastic pianist and producer. Great artist. And I'll be heading to Theater Erfurt to work with Alexander Pryor on his Winterreise for orchestra. And I'm going to be in Aix-en-Provence and Royal Opera coming up in early next season in the summer.
Early next season, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be watching for that and maybe catching up with you quickly.
Yeah.
All right.
Good to
Thanks,
see you,
John, and bravo. And bravo for the next one. I think we have already a function on Tuesday.
Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
Okay, so for the people, I don't know if I'm going to be able to produce this video before that goes, but surely before the last one on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday matinee.
So you know, check it out. Like, it's really, like John said, it's Beauté du Monde. It belongs in the modern repertoire. I think it's gonna be hopefully produced again at least 100 times.
Yeah.
At least, I hope. All right, thanks, John.
It's all right.
Ciao, ciao.